Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey here, once again with another video on Legends of Tomorrow Season 2. Now this is going to be my review for Episode 2 of Legends of Tomorrow Season 2, which is actually called the Justice Society of America. Now obviously there will be spoilers within this review, so if you have not seen the episode, you might want to go watch it, then come back to this video and discuss your thoughts on it in the comments. Now before we go ahead, if you do want to leave a like on the video, it'd be very much appreciated. Also, as I said before, if you do want to leave your opinions on the episode in the comments section below, it'd be appreciated as well, and subscribe if you are new to the channel. Now to start off, I thought it was very interesting that they swapped the introduction narration again. Last episode they had Martin Stein doing it, and this episode they had Sarah Lance narrating it. Now at first I was wondering, okay, they're going to do this episode by episode, they're just a new character doing it, but throughout this episode we see that Sarah is the new leader of the Legends, which is most likely why she was doing the narration at the beginning of this episode. That opening fight sequence with the Legends versus the Justice Society of America, who I will just call the JSA from now on, was extremely awesome. Just seeing the different abilities of each JSA member was just really cool. The highlights would have to be probably Stargirl and Obsidian. They had the coolest powers. Seeing the Reverse Flash working with the Nazis was not surprising in the slightest. I mean, did anyone expect him to be working with Greenpeace or PETA or something? It was of course going to be the Nazis. We finally got to see the ending to that Season 1 finale scene with Our Man, where he gives them that "don't come to 1942" warning and then just vanishes. Obviously having to do with something in the past not going to plan, which we do see later on in the episode. Once again throughout this episode, as I usually do mention in my reviews for Legends of Tomorrow, the period setting of this episode looked great throughout the whole episode. They do a really good job with it in my opinion. It was pretty damn funny having to see Professor Stein sing to that bar full of Nazis. And we got to see how patriotic Ray Palmer is, as he wouldn't even heil Hitler just to stay in character. He just thought, you know what, I'm just going to start a full-on brawl instead of saying 2 words. We learned that Nate has a condition where his blood doesn't clot, so a simple cut or abrasion could actually lead to him bleeding to death. Now this will lead on to his superhero origins later on, which we do get some other hints throughout this episode, which I will mention. Now I think a lot of people would have noticed this, especially if you're watching in just like decent quality, so I have to bring it up because I know people will bring it up in the comments. The CG of the super serumed up like a Baron dude was not the best. But you gotta remember, this is probably the most expensive show the CW makes. You could argue maybe Supergirl as well, but because of this you gotta realise that some things that require CGI can't look as good as they could be. And unfortunately this CGI, I'm just gonna call it a monster, was one of the effects of this being such an expensive show to make. Some cuts have to be made here and there. Now, as I mentioned before with the blood clot, there was a decent amount of setup for Nate in this episode leading up to him inevitably becoming Citizen Steel. So along with that blood clot condition, we also got that speech from his grandfather, which was good to see because throughout the whole episode, Nate's grandfather had been trying to ignore him or just ignoring him when Nate was speaking to him. And then we obviously saw Nate and his grandfather get hit by one of those bombs that was raining down on the Nazis, which leads to Ray actually giving him a tinkered version of the super soldier serum, which he was being forced to work on and create multiple doses of. And he gave this to Nate to save his life because of this whole blood clot condition, due to him, basically being blown up essentially. He had cuts everywhere and he was bleeding out pretty damn fast. So I think this super soldier serum will develop over the next couple of episodes, which once again is another link to his superhero future. Now as the episode came to a close, we got to see the Reverse Flash straight up kill Our Man and then steal that amulet that the JSA and the Legends got from the Nazis. But I guess the big question is, how will this affect both the Legends and the JSA in the episodes to come? But I guess the answer to that is that we're just going to have to wait and see how it all plays out. But overall, I thought this episode was a pretty strong second episode. It was really cool seeing the JSA in action. You could argue that the villain was a bit meh, wasn't that interesting, but it was in 1942, it did fit the time period. As I've mentioned throughout this video, there was a lot of setup for Nate, but also for Sarah because she was made the team leader now, so it will be interesting to see where that takes her, especially seeing she has her own journey wanting to kill Damien Dark for what he did to Laurel. So it will be interesting to see if those two conflict, her responsibility to lead this team, but then also her having this grudge and wanting to kill Damien Dark. And we'll see if those conflict and maybe she has to choose between one and the other. You could argue that each JSA member probably didn't get a lot of screen time. Like Obsidian got like a couple of lines, Stargirl got a few, Dr. Midnight got a few. So it was mainly like Vixen, Commander Steel were the top ones. And then Owlman got a few lines here and there, but then of course he ends up dying at the end, so RIP Owlman. But there weren't too many negatives from this episode. I thought it was really strong. Once again, Legends of Tomorrow is probably the funnest show to watch because it doesn't take itself too seriously. But it does have serious moments throughout which can make you connect with the show on an emotional level, if you want to call it that. But thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy the episode as well as my video on the episode. If you did, as I said before, if you leave a like on the video, it'd be very, very much appreciated. Leave what you thought of the episode in the comment section below and subscribe if you're new. I'll catch you on my next video, guys, which should be my trailer breakdown for the next episode of Legends of Tomorrow. But until then, I'll catch you later. Goodbye.